For the second time in United States history, the score of the United States has been downgraded, the credit score specifically. So apparently Fitch Ratings has downgraded the US credit score, and the instability and partisan nonsense taking place in Congress is partly to blame for that. The way we handle the debt ceiling negotiations, definitely part of this. And does our country actually deserve the lower credit score? Well, let me give you their reasoning and then you decide. And then we'll talk about the ramifications of lower credit scores for a country. So Fitch basically downgraded the credit score of the United States from a AAA rating to a AA+ rating. These ratings are hilarious. I think AA+ sounds pretty damn good.
It sounds better than AAA.
AAA is the best. But we're not the best anymore. We're not number one, apparently. Now, the rating downgrade of the United States reflects the expected fiscal deterioration over the next 3 years, a high and growing general government debt burden, and the erosion of governance relative to AA and AAA rated peers over the last 2 decades that is manifested in repeated debt limit standoffs and last minute resolutions. So look, I mean, the debt limit standoff just happened. So I can totally understand how they factor that into their decision to downgrade us. In Fitch's view, there has been a steady deterioration in standards of governance over the last 20 years, including on fiscal and debt matters, notwithstanding the June bipartisan agreement to suspend the debt limit until January of 2025. The repeated debt limit political standoffs and last minute resolutions have eroded confidence in fiscal management. What say you, John?
I mean, you read all that stuff and you think, kind of got a point.
Nailed it.
Yeah, all that stuff is kind of true. I mean, whether there's gonna be deterioration in the economy over the next 3 years is not a guarantee. But when they're backwards facing, yeah, we do have this battle every couple of years. And not just under Republicans, admittedly. Democrats have done it a couple of times too. I think that their rationale is better, but from the point of view of an outside financial observer, it's probably similar. The only thing I would counter with is, yeah, but didn't we raise the debt ceiling each time? I mean, even after reaching the brink multiple times, we still do always raise it, so.
We come through.
Yeah.
Usually with concessions to the GOP and cutting social spending programs in order to cross that line and finally get to where we need to be.
It would be like being evicted for paying your rent on the last day. Yeah, but I paid it.
True.
Yeah.
I wouldn't compare it exactly to that.
No, it's arguably more complex. But
it is more complex because there's a lot.
It's a metaphor.
I know, okay. But there's just a lot more dysfunction in government, right?
Yeah, that's true, and not just on this topic. Generally, our government has been designed and manipulated over the past few decades to progressively work less and less.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So for those of you who are wondering, okay, what's the point of these credit scores? Well, it's meant to assess the borrower's ability to repay debt obligations based on factors such as financial stability, past repayment history, and economic conditions. So it's kind of similar to how individuals are scored in terms of their credit and their trustworthiness in paying that debt back. And so when you have a lower credit score, it's much more expensive to borrow. We'll get to some of the other ramifications in a moment. But I thought it was also interesting that they listed a few other reasons, including several economic shocks, tax cuts, and new spending initiatives. Let's talk about that for a minute, okay? Because remember, the Trump administration added a whopping $8 trillion to the federal deficit, and the Trump administration pushed for and succeeded in the 2017 tax cuts for the rich, which it basically took $2 trillion of revenue away from the federal government.
And gave it to the best people, yeah.
Right. And so, by the way, me mentioning that Trump added $8 trillion to the deficit is not a lie. In fact, Mike Pompeo clowned Trump for it, so there's that. And considering the fact that we have a Social Security tax cap, it's infuriating to see this because they also list the lack of changes to Social Security and Medicare as the US population ages. That was one of their other bullet points here. Currently, individuals making more than $160,000 a year, any income above that amount stops getting taxed for Social Security. So if we're genuinely concerned about not having the resources to keep Social Security and Medicare solvent, there are ways to work on that and improve the situation. With Social Security, you could either raise or completely eliminate that tax cap. I've talked about that a billion times before, but something tells me it's gonna be real difficult to get that accomplished.
What if we're disingenuously worried about that?
Then you
Could we keep it then?
You join the Republican Party.
Can we keep it? Okay, then we'll keep it, and it'll go broke. But who cares? Those are poors. I guess we could do that, like as a country. No, honestly though, if you were worried about like the long-term fiscal health of the United States, wouldn't removing that cap and thereby ensuring decades of solvency for Social Security reassure these international credit bureaus?
Right, but we're actually governed by the donors who don't want to pay more taxes.
Yeah, that's a conundrum. We should look into that.
Quite a bit. But if you look at how Americans feel about these social spending programs, these universal social spending programs like Social Security, they're wildly popular. And the reason why they were implemented in the first place was to, lessen the likelihood of elderly people ending up on our streets. Seems like a pretty noble goal.
Yeah.
Seems like something I would want our country to really value and protect.
It's noble ethically and morally, but also in theory, it's sort of like a governmental version of an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It costs much more to a society when you have like even more rampant homelessness than we have right now, and people randomly losing their jobs in their homes for virtually nothing with no social safety net, and people dying in the streets, and people losing family members. Like that has a cost, not just to the individual, but society. Socially as well.
That's absolutely right. Now, Richard Francis, who is a senior director at Fitch Ratings, said this. He spoke to Reuters and said it was something that we've highlighted because it just is a reflection of the deterioration in governance. It's one of many. You have the debt ceiling. You have January 6th. Clearly, if you look at polarization with both parties, the Democrats have gone further left and Republicans further right. So the middle is kind of falling apart, basically. We don't fault one party or the other for the fiscal situation. Look, I do think that the inability of both parties to work together is a problem. So if that's the message here, I agree with it. But like, okay, let's address something real quick. Because I feel like on economic issues, do they really disagree that much? I mean, when we talk about how far apart both parties are, it's usually on social issues.
Yeah, definitely in general. I mean, that's been one of the common themes of TYT since the very beginning. And I think more and more, every year, more and more Americans sort of get that, at least on some level. But look, I think at least Biden proposed some spending that the Republicans would not have.
I do like rhetoric.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, like theoretically there were bills and they didn't go through. But like, yeah, I mean, even the spending that they did do is spending that the Republicans, like on some level, have to have a problem with, but it's going to the sort of people and the corporations that they want. I think that there are definitely some differences, but I don't think it's as significant as that like shallow attempt at both sidesing would have you believe.
Agreed. Now, finally, I just want to tell you what this all means. So a lower credit rating does mean that the United States will find it more expensive to borrow. A lower credit rating makes it more expensive for a country to borrow money and can negatively impact its economy. It may also result in a decline in foreign investment, currency depreciation, and difficulties in obtaining financing for government projects. So look, the markets were kind of unstable today after this credit downgrade came out. But aside from that, I don't think this one downgrade is gonna do that much damage. But I do see this as like a warning, like, hey, America, get it together. Will they? Will we? Doubt it. We'll see.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.